Hey guys, Double Wide 6, and today I'm working on a pressure washer. Customer brought it in and said that it won't start, so we're going to check it out and go through it. So this is it, Troy built 2500 PSI. It's got a little 190cc Briggs and Stratton engine. So we'll just go through this thing, see what it needs, and test it out. So we'll get going. So we probably have a carb issue, but first thing we're going to check here is the oil. Oil looks good, a little bit dark, but not overfilled. Definitely not gas in it. If you got gas in your oil, you probably have a leaky needle and seat in the carburetor, so you got to drain all that oil out and take care of that. But we don't. So I'm just going to pull this over. Definitely has compression, good compression from what I can tell. So we're gonna try and fire this thing off and see if it runs. Let me pull this air cover. So there's a 5/16. Air filter looks good. Sometimes there's oil on there. This one looks like there is some oil soaked on the bottom. The choke butterfly is closed. I thought it had an auto choke, but it doesn't. Oh, yes it does. This is just the throttle. So it has an auto choke, and since the butterfly, which is right here, that's moving freely and it's closed, so sometimes the choke doesn't work and it won't start. So we're gonna fire some fuel in there and see if this will run. So this is just carb cleaner. We'll just give it a shot. We'll see if we can get it to fire. And I just want to check where the kill is on this thing. Don't see on the cover. This way is stop, this way is full speed. So we'll give it a pull. So that tells us we have spark, we have compression, so now we know that we have a carburetor or a fuel issue. Next thing I want to look at is the tank. I want to take a look at the fuel in there and see what that looks like. So we'll take a look in the tank here. We are filled all the way up, and it does smell a little. It's hard to tell if it's stale. If I had to guess, it's mixed, but we don't know who put the fuel in there or what fuel it is. So we're gonna get rid of that fuel anyhow because we don't want a fuel problem or water. So at this point, we're gonna remove the carburetor, and then we'll take care of that fuel. There's 3 5/16 up here. And a little hose in the back goes here. Once again, I'm just seeing some more oil. So it looks like there's some oil getting into that carburetor. So this thing could have been tipped over or something. At this point, I'm going to get in here and try and get the fuel line off, and we'll get that drained. So there's a clamp. I'm going to try and wiggle this a little bit. Got it moving. Just going to pinch it off here, and I have a fuel shut off right there, so that'll shut the fuel off, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this drain down to the can here. I'll show you what this looks like. So we put a hose on there, and I'll just open the valve and we'll let all the fuel drain out of there. And while that's draining, we will go ahead and remove the carburetor. So there's two Phillips heads up here. This thing has an auto choke, so you gotta take off this cover. There's a 1/4 inch holding this auto choke. The spring's on there, the spring's on here, so everything's good. We'll just pull that off, and now we have access to our 2 carburetor mount bolts. 2 3/8. And there's one linkage. These are generally pretty easy carburetors to take off and work on. So I got the carburetor in the pan. It's pretty clean on the outside. We'll remove the main jet, bowl, hinge pin, float, needle. All in all, this looks pretty good. Looks like this bowl gasket looks a little shoddy. There's also some rust on here, and that can allow air into the carburetor. Seat looks good. So yeah, we're just going to clean things up. This looks a little varnished in here. So I'm just going to brush off that area that looks a little corroded. It's not really rust, it looks more like old stale fuel. So this is just a brass brush. A lot of times I use a brass wheel on my grinder, but this will work pretty good, and it's just easier for me on camera to do it this way because I don't feel like moving my camera. Got a little bit of a different view with the camera this time because I jacked up my tripod and I'm kind of shooting down on the carb. So you have to let me know in the comments how you're seeing this. Alright, so that cleaned off most of the dirt. I'm going to go through, just blow out all the passages. Once again, this is just carb cleaner. I buy it in bulk, put it in these spray bottles. That one's open nice, so is that. So everything's looking pretty good. This is torch tip cleaner. Just going to run this through here. These Briggs carburetors are about as easy as it gets. So the carb body's looking good. Gonna clean out right where the needle goes in with the Q-tip. And the needle itself doesn't have a rubber tip, but we just want to make sure that there's no gum on the sides that's holding it up. Looks good. Got this float bowl. This is the main jet, and it does look pretty dirty. So I have a feeling that this thing sat with fuel in it for a while. I didn't get to talk to the owner. He pulled in my driveway and wasn't able to unload the pressure washer himself, so he called me. I was dropping off a snow blower, so I had my son go out and take it off his truck for him. But alright, so that's all cleaned out. Looks pretty good, actually. Gonna blow a little air through that. Alright, so we're gonna get some new gaskets and we'll put this back together. I like to keep this for cleaning and stuff, brush it on the outside of carburetors and whatnot. And then the residual, I just use to clean the pan, if I remember. So I'm going to start putting this back together. Start out with our needle and float. And our hinge pin. Bowl gasket. That gasket looked pretty rough. So that's on there nice. I popped the gasket off here. This one was pretty hard. So I'm gonna drop the bowl on here. New gasket on the bottom. Snug that guy up. It's good. So I guess we're ready to put that back on. So while we're at it, I'm going to change this gasket. It looks like completely saturated, and I don't know, it feels sort of flimsy. I just cut new gaskets, so I got a bunch. In fact, they're sitting out. Just all those gaskets were just cut, and yeah, they're Honda and Kohler and stuff, so might as well change these out if I got them. So my fuel's done draining, so at this point we're just going to pull that. And I'm going to blow out the tank. There's a screen in there, so I want to make sure that that's clean. Just want to check that the tank's dry. Looks like it needs a little more. Looks good. So I'm just going to install a carb. So we'll hook up our fuel line, our linkage. Actually, we'll do the linkage first. Linkage, fuel line. We'll line up our auto choke, make sure that that's in the right spot. And there we go. We got 2 3/8. There's one. You always want to start these guys by hand. Alright, all that's good. We'll put our clamp on the fuel line. Having trouble getting in here. There we go. Put the hose on the back here. Got our new gasket. And looks like we got 3 screws. These are all 5/16. Get those on there. Just snug these, not too tight. You get it too tight and you can warp this. So there is some oil on here. I'm just going to clean that up. New air filter. The other one had oil saturated on it, so we'll just replace that while we're at it here. Alright, so looks like we just need fuel and put the top cover back on. Looks good. I'll get some fresh fuel. So I'm going to put in some of my fuel that I know is fresh. The problem with these pressure washers is that they sit all the time. And if you don't take the fuel out, it'll get gummed up. All right, so we're going to try and start it. This thing is a pressure washer. It does need water hooked up. So we're just going to run it real quick, make sure it runs. And then I want to hook it up to water, and I want to try and heat it up because I was looking at that oil and it is kind of thick. So yeah, I'm going to recommend this guy change the oil and just get a full tune-up. It'll be cheaper that way. So let's see if this thing fires. No choke, no primer, we're ready to go. So it's running good, guys. With these pressure washers, what I like to do is take them out and test them, make sure everything's working right. You know, it's a bit of a pain, especially when it's winter. Luckily, it's a nice day here in February. So I'll quick hook this thing up, make sure it runs right, get it hot, change the oil. You also want to be sure to test these out because sometimes they freeze. I know it got down to like 8 degrees one night here this winter, and I got, I think, like 3 pressure washers in right after that because they needed new pumps or wands or whatnot. So this one's I got a leak, but it looks like it's coming from the hose. You can see it worked well. It took a while for my hose to prime because, like I said, it's winter, so my hose had no water in it. I also noticed that the cover over the muffler is cracked on one side. So I'm just going to weld that up for a guy. I won't charge him. And that's how you make a customer, fellas. So we'll get this one wrapped up and call it a day. I will link some of the tools and supplies used for this project down below. Support the channel, give it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, make sure you're subscribed. Lots of videos just like this one. So take good care. We'll see you next time. Double wide 6.